Hey True Seekers, it's Nathanael and Carolyn here again. We are going to be doing a deck profile for a Mono Faith deck. We've already done the Mono Holy Spirit deck and we're going to get the other ones down here soon. So I'm going to use Mai as my True Seeker for Faith. Between the two True Seekers I could have chose Silas, which once per turn I can grab a Faith Power card from my discard pile to my hand. But this one says that I may draw 2 cards for each Faith Power I discard from my hand. So during your setup phase, when you discard a Faith Power card, you can draw 2 cards for that. So, as a result, I am going to utilize, let's see here, 4, 8, 11, 14 power cards. With May, that makes 15, so that means a fifth of my deck is True Seekers, or not True Seekers, but power cards. So that way I can discard them as I need them, plus I get a draw. One of the reasons why we are using so many is because Faith doesn't have the ability to seek out their power cards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a ton of them because I'm going to be discarding them, and I need to make certain I see my power cards. Along with my True Seeker, I'm going to use some story cards. First story card is Beautiful Gate. Because we are only going to be using set 2 cards for this, or cross-trainer cards, this Beautiful Gate has the ability to remove a hindrance card or from your active Cine. So if I have a Cine out, if my opponent's played a Cine on me and they have hindrance card, I can get rid of it, or I can just ignore the effects from my active Cine's ability for the turn. Then here's Truth for Tough as Nails. Tough as Nails is if my active Cine spot is empty, I may place this card there. When my opponent reveals a Cine card, I can discard it, search my deck for 3 Animos, and place them into my hand. It's kind of like a snake bit, but your opponent controls it. Plus, if your opponent's not giving you Cines, that's more points that you're able to get. Then, because I'm using a Faith strategy, I need to recycle a lot of my Animo, so I'm using Shake and Break. Shake and Break lets me return up to 2 level 1 Animos from my discard pile to my hand. Lets me get back my Stagnetics and my True Blues and my Armorina level 1s. Then I'm going to run 2 Snake Bits. I run Snake Bit because it lets me... I basically forfeit my scoring phase and my turn will instantly end after I resolve this. But when I activate, I can search my deck for any 4 cards and just add them to my hand. Which is really important because I only want to see specific cards. I also run equipment cards in this deck. I run 1 Shield of Faith, so I can attach it to a Faith Animo, and it's not affected by the abilities or actions of Cines. Also, as long as this card remains in play, my power cards are protective against actions of my opponent's story cards or Cines. Right now in Series 2, there's not like a whole lot of interaction with your power cards, but this helps protect them. Then I have Helm of Salvation. I can attach it to any Animo that's not an Ultra. And what this card lets me do is it lets me, the Animo that's attached to, instead of it being discarded, I can discard this card instead and add that Animo back to my hand. And then, because I don't have a whole lot of way of searching for cards, I try to put as much generic search in this deck. So I have Paul's Chains, which is once per turn. I can, basically as long as this is attached to an Animo in my small group, it cannot be activated. But in exchange, once per turn, I can search my deck for any 2 level 1 Animo and add them to my hand. Or not add them to my hand, but place 2 of them to my small group. Very important, extremely helpful. And I recommend that anyone try and run 3 copies of these in this deck. Unless you run Sadie, then you can get away with running fewer. But it's still really good. It gets around Zapper King. So this is a Mono Faith, but I'm going to start off with my Animo that are not Faith. Potpourri, which has the ability that as long as this card remains in my small group, I can ignore the effects from actions of any cities revealed to you. So basically, there's no, basically, if I have this out and they use Zapper King, I can just ignore Zapper King. It's pretty awesome. Servitude. Servitude has a Servant's Heart and has an ability that says once per turn, I may draw one card for each Faith, Hope, or Holy Spirit animal in my small group. Really good. I like to put Pulse Chains on him so that way I'll just draw 3 cards every turn. I'll use Pulse Chains to get me 2 Animo that I need to draw off of this. Servitude is just awesome. And then I run 3 Gut Piece. These Gut Piece are Holy Spirit Animo, but once I play this from my hand to my small group, he will search my deck for any Faith Animo and add it to my hand. So that's really important for searching for my deck. I know it's not Faith, but it works with Faith cards, and basically I play him and then I discard him to play an Animo for my hand. That's basically how Gut Piece works. Before I get into my Faith Animo, I'm going to go over my Cinis. I got my Scorpoon. Scorpoon has a really interesting action that says if I'm not already facing a Cini, my opponents must reveal a Cini from their discard pile if they have one, and play it against me. So essentially, if I'm sitting at 5 Cinis and my opponent doesn't have a Cini against me because they don't want me to win by 6 Cinis, I can just go ahead and activate this Cini on them, force them to give me a Cini from their discard pile, and then I defeat it and win the game. It's also a 12 defense, which is really good. This is Screeny. Screeny is really important because of Truth Seekers like Simon and Sadie that let them just get their Animo every turn that they need. This ability says that my opponent may not use their Truth Seeker ability. So essentially, their Truth Seeker's too busy playing video games on their phone or watching TV. This is Detestable. Detestable is unfit. It has an action that says my opponent must discard one of their equipment cards that are in play. This card is extremely important because it gets rid of your opponent's Pulse Chains while they need it. Then we get Zapper King. Zapper King says my opponent may not play any level 1 Animo from their hand to their small group next turn. So they don't have any Animo out there and they don't have Sadie or Pulse Chains already on an Animo. You just go ahead and say, nope, you're not doing anything next turn. This is Grasshopper. Grasshopper has the ability that my opponent has the action that says my opponent reveals their hand, select one card, and have them shuffle it back into their deck. It's a really rude card. Scorch. Scorch has an action that says my opponent may not activate any Hope Animo on their next turn. 9 defense, really good. Evil. Evil says my opponent may not activate any Love Animo on their next turn. And then I choose to run 1 Mega Cini, which is Corrupt Tail Omega. 16 defense. It's defeated by Dependaroo, and he's really good. Now onward to my Faith Animo. For my Faith Animo, I have 3 Hafalanche level 2 and 3 Hafalanche level 1. Essentially, this is a 10 Virtue Point Cini, or sorry, a 10 Virtue Point Animo, Virtuous Animo, that costs 3. This is a Faith Animo. They're both Faith Animo that don't require me to discard Faith Power cards, which is really important because my main strategy requires me to discard at least 3 Faith Power cards when I activate them. He also has an action that lets me shuffle up to 5 of any combination of power cards and or Animo from my discard pile back into my deck. This is going to help me after I use my Stagnetic play and my opponent has used Kroggle and I can't recycle them. I can use this one to shuffle them back into my deck, as far as I know, because it says I cannot retrieve, so I have to ask a ruling on that one. But the main reason why he's in here is because he's a 10 for 3 or a 6 for 2, which is just all around even and fair, and it's an additional strategy that I can use in my deck other than my main strategy. I have 2 Believers, because Believer has an action that lets me search my discard pile for any 1 Faith Animo and add it to my hand. He also defeats Tollcrow, which is kind of important. Here is True Blue. In most of our decks, we use 2 True Blues, but since this is a mono Faith deck, I will use 3 True Blues, plus True Blue is more important in this one because it just focuses on recycling after. It's recycling my Stagnetic so that way I can get the win. Because Faith doesn't have a way of accelerating power cards by searching for them from their deck, I use Armorino level 1. Armorino level 1 has an ability that says once per turn, as long as this card's in my small group, I can place 1 Faith power card from my discard pile into my power pool. Essentially, I just place him there, and I use May to discard a Faith, draw 2, use Armorino to grab that from my discard pile and place it into my power pool. It's the only way to accelerate power cards in this deck, which is kind of unfortunate because it doesn't search out the power cards, which means I already have to have them, which is why I run so many power cards. Because if I do the ratios right, I should draw at least 1 Faith power card per 5 cards. Since it's a fifth of my deck. Now I have one of the golden childs of the deck. Main strategy, Stagnetic. I get 3 Faith power cards in my discard pile, and then I can activate him without paying his cost. He is a 10 for 3, and I have to discard one of those 3, but if I don't have to pay his cost, might as well. Which leads me to one of the main bread and butters of our deck, Armorino Ultra, which doesn't have an ability, but his cost is discard 3 Faith power cards. So when I go to activate him, I have to discard 3, which fulfills the requirement of Stagnetic, if I haven't already met that with May. May's going to help me draw the cards I need to get here. And Armorino level 1 is going to help me set up. So that way, Armorino Ultra can do his thing to let me activate my Stagnetics for free. So that's the main point of this mono Faith deck. So in the meantime, Truth Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating cities.